Hello, welcome to this channel. My name is Finya, and today I really want to talk about all of the books I want to read in 2026. Originally, I wanted to do a TBR of 26 books for 2026, but to be honest, I couldn't really think of that much books I want to read, because if you've seen my reading wrap up for this year, you will notice that I did not have a good year of reading. So yeah, I've been in a slump all year and I just don't know what I like anymore. I have no clue, but there are a couple of books I'm really excited for, and I do think that they could get me out of a slump, and that I just hope could be 5 stars that would give me this love for reading again. So the first one is 11/22/63 by Stephen King, and I've never read a Stephen King book in my life because originally I always thought he was only writing horror, and horror in both movies and books is just not something for me. I just always think it's a bit boring and I'm just waiting for jump scares that will not give me a lot, and I always think it's like lacking on the plot and character development side. Maybe I just haven't watched any good horror movies. I really only liked The Shining, which is a Stephen King adaptation, so I never really thought Stephen King was an option for me. But then I actually learned he's not only writing horror books, and this book in particular I think is a sci-fi time traveling book. So basically I think it's a guy who goes back in time to undo the assassination of JFK, and people always tell me if you want to get into Stephen King but not read a horror book, then this is a book to get into. It's quite long, but it's supposed to be a page turner. It's supposed to be really exciting and just keep you hooked the entire time. And this is something that I'm really looking forward to. Then another sci-fi book, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I haven't read The Martian by him. I've obviously watched the movie adaptation with Matt Damon, which I thought was so fun. I know that another adaptation of this book is coming out with Ryan Gosling as the main role, and I feel like everyone loves this book. So readers who don't even read sci-fi love this book, and then people who are really nerdy about like the physics and maths and like science in his books also really love it. So I feel like everyone just kind of really is raging on about it, and especially with the movie adaptation coming out, I'm really excited to read it because the last couple of months I really like reading books and then immediately watching the adaptations, and I feel like at this point so much is coming out and so many cool adaptations are coming out, so I really want to lean into that and time the books I'm reading with movie adaptations that are coming out, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is another sci-fi read where I hope it's really addicting, really fast-paced, and really a page turner, and I think I will get this from this book. Then I have a fantasy book, and this year fantasy was not really for me. I felt like every romantasy book that I read was really shallow and just same thing redone every time. I feel like if you've at this point read a couple of romantasy books, you've just seen it all and it just does not feel new to me anymore. But this one, When Among Crows by Veronica Roth, who's the author of the Divergent series. There's one book here where Dylan Joseph, who does not read a lot of fantasy, I feel like, he loves this series. I do think it's a duology or a trilogy, I'm not entirely sure. It's very, very short, around 250 pages. And yeah, I just, when someone talks so passionately about a book, it just gets me excited immediately. So maybe this might be another dive into the fantasy genre and kind of, yeah, re-experience and re-fall in love with it again. Okay, then let's get back to movie adaptations, because I think everyone knows the book Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And this has been so viral a couple of years ago, but I've never read it because I always wanted to read Hamlet by Shakespeare first, which I just did not get around to. So for the few people who do not know this book, it's basically about Shakespeare's wife. It's about a time in their life where they lost their son Hamnet and kind of are dealing with the loss of their very small child. And then a couple of years later, Shakespeare wrote Hamlet as a way to kind of cope with this tragedy and this loss and the grief. But the book is mostly about his wife, and I don't think that Shakespeare is even named at all by name. This is what I heard of. But yeah, I always wanted to read Hamlet first and then kind of go into Hamnet. So obviously Hamlet is also on this list. So the plan is kind of read Hamlet, then read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, and then watch the movie adaptation of Hamlet with Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley, which I'm so excited about. I feel like this is the perfect movie for Paul Mescal. Like, this is what he's so good at. Like, sad people and like sad stories, and him being a sad man. And Jessie Buckley was phenomenal in the miniseries Chernobyl, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So I'm really excited for the pair of them to kind of take on this huge book, which I don't even know if I will like it, but I hope so. So the people who've watched a couple of videos of mine know that I'm in love with Fredrik Backman. Even though I've only read his Beartown trilogy, I just love his writing. I think he's phenomenal. Just because of those books, he's become one of my favorite authors of all time. And I really want to read some of his other works that he's kind of known for. For example, Anxious People, which he's, I think, mostly known for. It's this absurd drama with so many people. It's kind of a hostage situation at like a house viewing, I think, but it's supposed to be very funny, very witty, but also very deep, and kind of the Fredrik Backman we know from the Beartown books. But also I've heard his writing is kind of very different, you know, from his Beartown trilogy to his other books. But yeah, I'm really excited to read that because I just love his writing. And then also A Man Called Ove or Ov. This has been adapted a couple of times. I think there's a Swedish adaptation, and there's also an American adaptation which is called A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks. And I think it's about this really sad old man who lives in a house, and I do think a new family is moving in next doors, and they're kind of warming it up and getting some feelings out of him. I'm not entirely sure. Fredrik Backman would excel in this type of story. And I also want to read My Friends, which has been his most recent publication. I already have it here. It's been lying around for months. But as I said, I was kind of in a slump and I just did not have the motivation to pick up a book. I don't know how it's like the moment I get into one and I'm enjoying it, like I can't put it down, but I just have this weird apprehension that I just cannot pick up a book. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I just hope that this list kind of helps me to kind of have a plan. So let's get to the classics. I have started The Count of Monte Cristo, and I've gotten about 150 pages in, but I stopped exactly at the point where you have read everything that you find out in the synopsis of the book. Although I've really enjoyed it so far, but I do think that I haven't even gotten to the point where it is really fun. So the book is about this sailor who's quite a good man. I think he's around like 19 years old, quite young, and there are a couple of people in his life that are very jealous of him, either of his career or his fiance or anything about him, and they basically plot against him, so he's thrown into prison. This is what you learn about the book from the synopsis, and I'm exactly at the point where he is in prison and he's trying to get out, but I know it's kind of this revenge story that takes place over decades. So yeah, I'm really excited for this journey and this like odyssey and this long book, because everyone says this is one of those classics that are just addicting and fast-paced, and it's just fun the entire time. And that has been like my experience until now, but it's just now lying around for weeks. And I was originally reading it with two friends of mine who also got stuck at the same point I am. But I do think it's just about getting a bit further in and then to kind of get the story rolling. So yeah, I'm really excited to finish that in the new year. Then another classic that is just lying around, and this is The Divine Comedy. I've talked about this, I think, in my long books I want to read. And obviously this is long, this is important, this is hard to read, very hard to read. I mean, people go to Florence, Italy to just study it for 3 years. I feel like reading just a tiny section and then just Googling Canto 14 explained analysis is for me the way to go, because you really have to know a lot of background information about the time, about Dante himself, figures across history, about figures from Greek mythologies, because, you know, he talks about everyone and everything that he knew about at the time. But it's so much fun, you know, but I do think it's a book that you go bite by bite. And so I'm not really mad about not being further into it. I feel like I'm halfway through Inferno now. So yeah, a long way to go, but it is super fun, I must say. It's super fun to have a book where you not only read it, but also feel like you're learning and studying something to kind of, you know, get your brain going a little bit. I'm really excited to just keep going in the new year and, day by day work through it. Then there's a very, very viral book, and it's another sci-fi actually. Why I'm kind of in the mood to read sci-fi, and that is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've only read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by her, which I've loved, and I love her writing. It's so addicting and fast-paced. There are other books that I really want to read by her, but yeah, this is her newest publication, and I've seen it everywhere across the entire year. I've seen good reviews about it, and I'm just excited to read another book by her because it's, she's so fun. So yeah, really want to dabble into that. Then there's a book which I don't know a whole lot about, and it's called The Bright Years by Sarah DeMauve. And this has been on my radar because the booktuber Sarah Caroli loves it, and she said it's really similar to Frederick Bachman, or like his writing style. And as you know by now, I really love Frederick Bachman. So yeah, this is kind of a no-brainer for me. And I think it's this family saga about a family in Texas, and it's a book across multiple generations, and it's supposed to be very heartfelt, very dramatic, and it kind of a deep study of a family across time, which I usually tend to like. So yeah, even though I don't know a lot about it, it's kind of really high up on my radar, and I feel like this would be a great fit for me in my reading style. Another book that is on my list because of Sarah Caroli is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey, or McConaughey, I really don't know. And this is, I think, a mix of literary fiction and a bit of thriller. This is what I know about. It's, I think, this family living on an island, and during a huge storm, a woman washes ashore, and this kind of like starts the story that we read about. And it's supposed to be very mysterious, very engaging. And I'm not entirely sure if Sarah Caroli also said it's kind of Frederick Bachman-esque. But at this point, everything that she loves kind of reminds me of Frederick Bachman. So this is also why I'm trying to read this book. And yeah, it sounds just really addicting and mysterious and kind of a page turner. So yes, I'm really excited to go into this book. I haven't been reading a lot of literary fiction at all this year, so maybe this is something that I need, or something that maybe makes me discover a bit more about my reading taste. Another thing that's been kind of suffering the last half year, I would say, is mangas. I used to really enjoy reading manga series because it's just so fast-paced, you have pictures and really cool stories at times. And as you might know, I loved the Attack on Titan series or the Death Note series, so I really kind of want to continue some of the stories I've been reading or start new ones. And the first one is Full Metal Alchemist Volume 2. I have read the first one, which I think was good. It was not like super overwhelmingly exciting, for me at least. I've also started the anime, but I really want to kind of continue the manga series because it's my boyfriend's favorite anime, and I feel like in the anime community, this story is very, very loved. And I don't think, like, from the first volume, I have gotten at all to the point where you kind of understand that. I have these beautiful editions that have this metallic back, and they have really cute covers. I just love how the spines look in your shelf. So yeah, I just really want to continue reading the story because everyone who watches anime or reads manga has read this and loved this. And it's a finished story, which is kind of rare in, anime and manga. So yeah, but these editions are super expensive. So this is also something that's holding me back because I will not get normal paperbacks after I found these babies. So yeah, but I really want to, read 2 and 3 at least in the new year. Another series I really want to continue is Jujutsu Kaisen, and I think the next one for me is volume 23. I already have it here, but this was kind of hard to continue because my favorite character is not happening right now. He's still alive, which is a good thing, of course, but he just hasn't been present for the last 5 volumes, I feel like. And it's just this really long arc without him. I don't even know if he's coming back at this point. But yeah, so if my favorite character is just gone, I feel like it's just so hard to continue something. And it's getting really confusing at this point. And I feel like I haven't read the series for so long that I've probably forgotten a lot about what's going on at the moment. So yeah, I really want to kind of refresh my memory from the last couple of volumes and then continue with 23. But yeah, I don't think it's finished right now. The anime isn't finished, so this is also time. And another manga option would be maybe starting One Piece. I'm not sure about it because it's so long, it's so loved, and it's still not finished. There would be so many volumes. So I thought about getting an omnibus edition of the first 3 volumes and just trying it out. But I have this very romantic vision about having a child someday, and at an age where it's appropriate, just starting the anime with them and watching one episode every day or like every couple of days, and then just having my child growing up while watching One Piece with them. So yeah, I don't know, maybe this will never happen. So it might be just the time to start it on my own. But I'm not sure. It might be such a huge commitment to start this very, very long manga series. Okay, going away from manga and going back to the classics. If you've watched my long books I want to read video, you know this is on there, and it is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. So far, everything I've read by him I loved, I adored, and I have it in my shelf. But yeah, it's just so long. Like Russian authors always just write so many words, and I think it's around 800, 900 pages, small text. And yeah, but it's just supposed to be fantastic. So maybe I would just choose a vacation, or I don't know, a couple of weekends where I just plow through it, because I just heard so many great things about it. And I love a deep character study. And I think this book is basically about a man committing a murder, committing a crime, and then living with the guilt. This is probably 1% of the book, but I do think this is the premise. But yeah, I'm just really excited to read more Dostoevsky and his like most popular works, because I've been kind of like staying with his shorter works. For example, like The Gambler or Notes from Underground, White Knights. They're so much shorter than his most popular works, like Crime and Punishment or The Brothers Karamazov, or The Idiot. I think that's also quite long. So yeah, I just want to get over it and get it in it because I feel like I would love it. So this is on top of my list for 2026. And then Bunny by Mona Awad, and I had this book for a couple of years, at least 3 or 4 years. And I do think that I will love it because I do like dark academia, I like female rage. And I heard that people who like The Secret History or If We Were Villains will love this book. So yeah, it's been just lying around for ages, and on paper it's supposed to be a 5 stars for me, but you know, as I said, I've been a slump, and I do think it's finally time to read this book. And then last on my list is Love in the Times of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. If you've been to the channel before, I love 100 Years of Solitude by this author. It was just magnificent and beautiful and magical, and it's this so perfect. My camera just died, so I'm recording the rest of this video on my phone. I love 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I've only ever read this book by him, but I just love his writing. It's wonderful. So this is the next book I really want to read by him, and I don't know anything about it really, but I also didn't know anything about 100 Years of Solitude, so I think it will be a good thing to go into this blind, because I know I will absolutely do it, you know. So yeah, this has been my TBR for 2026, and I really, really hope that this will be a better year for reading than 2025 has been, because you know, that was not it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we see each other in the next year. Bye.